avenue to gain knowledge.
What I mean is, when I say like base constituents, there may be a more articulate way of putting it, which would probably fall within the domain of scientific explanation.
Yeah.
The lexicon of which I'm maybe not so proficient.
No problem. Let's not question about the basic components. Let's just question about our existence in the first place. Because I think that is what everyone would question themselves. Why are we here? We must have a purpose in our life. The fact that
jumping to a different issue now.
Yeah, because I think, in my opinion, when you're using the reductionist approach, you're not treating us as though we're humans. Because at the end of the day, we are humans, right? We have feelings. If you are reducing to atoms and elements, then what's the difference between you and a chocolate bunny?
Well, we've touched on one difference, which is the consciousness issue.
Exactly. So what I'm saying to you is this: I think at this moment in time, it's not even relevant to talk about the basic constituents. Rather, we should question about our own existence. Why do we exist?
So the reason why that particular issue is important, that particular difference between me and the chocolate bunny, as you put it, is important, is because the chocolate bunny cannot, by any measurable way, experience suffering, for example.
Okay.
I can, and therefore there is a certain level of utility to me valuing myself over something that doesn't value itself.
Exactly. So why do you value your life?
Because I have the potential to suffer, and not suffering is much more appealing to me than suffering.
And where'd you get your life from? Who gave you life?
Are we gonna? I feel.
I'm being very honest with you.
It's not my first rodeo, so I understand that we're probably going to go down the infinite regress.
No, but not even infinite regress. Not even infinite regress. I don't entertain infinite regress arguments. I don't entertain those arguments.
So,
these are philosophical arguments which I don't entertain. What I'm saying, the basic thing is this: you have a beginning, I have a beginning. If something has a beginning, right, we have to question ourselves why we're here in the first place. That's the first question.
In the sense that me as an individual, me as a person separate from you has a beginning. Okay. But the constituents, and I know you wanted to redirect us from considering ourselves in terms of atoms and subatomic particles. Yeah. But I'm saying the existence of those and the origin of those is...
So why don't we question about the origin of our existence?
So I'm saying it's unclear still whether there is an origin.
But you must have an origin, because you just said you have a beginning.
No, I'm saying me as an individual has a beginning.
No, but
I'm saying that could just be as a result of the order in which those subatomic particles have.
But again, what you're doing is you're now adopting what you call a reductionist approach, which is you're now treating yourself as though you're just an element. You're just made up of atoms and elements. But you're more than that. You're more than that.
I'm more than that because of how those things have aligned themselves.
But with all due respect, you really shouldn't degrade yourself like that, because the thing is, you have feelings of love, you have feelings of compassion, which how do subatomic particles subatomic particles? Exactly. So now the question is, why do we have short life? Why don't we live here forever? If you believe that the universe always began, I'm not saying you do, but there's a possibility. Let's say you have a possibility, then why don't we live forever then? Why do we have to die? If the universe is supposed to be there forever, why do everyone in the universe die? That means we have a purpose. Just like, for example, you have an examination, you have a test.
I'll explain that.
Right? Go on.
I don't necessarily believe that the universe will live forever in its current form.
Okay.
I think, for example, what scientists call the singularity from which came the Big Bang.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Happy Mother's Day, please.
Okay.
To all the mothers in the world.
No, I love my mother every day.
Thank you very much. Mums are the best.
Mums are the best. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and a special tribute to Mrs. Andrea Kelly
sure.
today. I'm making today a special tribute to Mrs. Andrea Kelly,
okay,
who brought forth three beautiful, God-blessed children.
That's good to hear.
And this morning, I was shocked to open my YouTube to listen to a Christian channel called HN News, slandering Mrs. Andrea Kelly and blaming her for everything. I couldn't even believe it. They even called her a traitor. Cool. So I said, how dare you, a Christian based organization, on Mother's Day?
Sure.
Yeah? Remember, Andrea brought forth 3 beautiful children for Mr. R. Kelly. Yeah? Sure. How dare you slander her, Christian, especially on Mother's Day?
Absolutely.
Hey, come on.
I wouldn't blame anybody.
I wouldn't blame it. Yeah, exactly.
She shouldn't get no blame at all, anyway. But we try to be fair. We say the man and the woman equally, they are both responsible.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Everybody should be treated justly according to their actions.
But when we come in to talk about relationships, you can't just blame the woman.
No, anyone who's at blame should be
blamed.
You can't blame the woman.
Exactly.
And the women, they have a lot of emotion.
Thank
So the mainstream media play on the emotion. Now, if you know the animals, like a lion, the lion, when the lion is under attack, the lioness, she doesn't run to protect the lion. She's her first protocol. Her first protocol is to run and protect her cubs.
Sure.
Because if she runs to protect the husband and leave the cubs exposed and open and at risk of attack, you understand? So naturally, she runs to protect her cubs first. Yeah?
Sure.
So you cannot blame her and say she's a traitor because she left the husband. She has to protect her children first.
Cool.
That's the nature.
I agree.
And when the man is under attack, when the man is under attack, it ultimately affects the children. Yeah? So the mom has to protect the children. Isn't it?
Sorry, madam, he's just calling you. He's just calling you.
No, I'm not finished. So do you understand me?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Especially by the media. Yeah? When the man is under attack by the media, the mainstream media, the mother has to protect the children. Yeah? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Love them, your mothers.
Yes, absolutely.
Remember what they went through.
Absolutely.
The best.
Every day.
Just wake up and say, every day. Yeah?
So every day.
They go through a lot.
Cool. Thank you very much, sister. Thank you very much.
Keep silent. You see?
Indeed. Thank you very much, sister. Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Where were we?
Yeah, where were we? Yeah. Okay, this one said. Okay, fine. Let's first question. You're not sure. You're not convinced if there is a creator in the first place, right? Sure.
Can I just remember where we were?
Yeah, sure.
So, you suggested that I might think that the universe will, you asked why we don't live forever if the universe is going to live forever.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily agree that the universe is going to remain in its current form forever. I mean, we already know that it's fluctuating, at least the observable universe is fluctuating, is expanding, right? So why would I assume that I will stay in the same form forever? I might die as an individual, but again, my base constituents will continue.
No. See, if I get the dictionary out of the Oxford Dictionary, what the universe is, you would sort of appreciate where I'm coming from. Because the universe doesn't just mean the cosmos. The universe is also us. We're part of the universe.
Yeah,
so if the universe was always there,
but the universe changes, right?
Exactly. So how can something that always existed go through changes?
Why not?
Because infinity by definition means it's impossible to measure.
Do you believe? Well, when you say measure, what constitutes change?
What constitutes change? Series of events.
Like what if your
from
mood
H
changes? Can
from
you
X
measure it?
from X to Y.
If your mood changes, can you measure it?
If you measure, so you're talking about qualitative traits, but you can quantitatively measure the universe.
No, you can't.
You can.
You can only measure. You can only estimate a measurement for the observable universe.
But that's what I'm saying. So if you can, who's
to say that's the extent of the universe?
But that is, by definition, that's what infinity means. That is impossible to measure. But if I can,
but I'm saying people claim to measure the observable universe.
Okay.
But no one, I don't believe anyone credibly claims to measure the universe.
The universe is made up of mathematics. That's the language. The language of physics is mathematics.
So all of existence.
All of existence.
So I'm saying I don't think anyone credibly claims to be able to measure all of existence.
When you apply mathematics, when you apply mathematics into the universe, that's physics.
Are you saying it's infinite?
No, I'm not saying it's infinite.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, what I'm saying.
I just wanted to make sure
exactly. No, what I'm saying.
I'm saying we don't know.
No. We know for sure.
Can you measure a region of something which is infinite?
No, what I'm saying is,
I'm saying if you can measure any part of it, if you can measure from here to there,
then that's not infinite.
Then it can't be infinite.
You mean
if you can measure a part of it, then it can't be infinite.
Can't be infinite. It's finite because it has a starting and it has a.
How many of you are there?
In terms of what we understand to be
human
beings.
You as this person.
Or how many of people of my
ethnicity? No, you as this person standing in front of me. How many? One. If there's only one, then it can't be an infinite universe. If it was an infinite universe, there'll be an infinite number of you.
So
exactly.
I think what we're doing, we're falling into the trap of thinking that, because we already have parameters for what differs me from you, in the sense of what makes us separate.
No, we're not talking about that. We're just saying the fact that that what you're saying is this possibility that the universe always existed. If the universe always existed, how come there's no infinity in the real world? If I was to ask you how many bananas are there, if there's infinite number of bananas, and I subtract 2, how many bananas?
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I'm saying you can claim. The problem is, for me to respond to that, I will have to speak specifically to the person, as in to you from your religious tradition.
No, it's nothing to do with religion. It's just the fact that...
No, in the sense that the claim you're making contradicts some of the precepts of your own belief.
No, not necessarily, because I believe the universe has a beginning. I believe that the originator of the heavens and the earth is the creator.
For example, if I say, for example, that if I was to make the claim that your scripture attributes to your creator a finite number of attributes,
okay,
then
finite number of attributes.
A finite number of attributes or characteristics, or even what you will claim is in a figurative sense, number of limbs or so on.
Number of limbs of who?
For us, for example, to count the number of limbs a deity has,
we don't believe in that.
the same as saying, if you subtract 2 bananas from infinite bananas, how many bananas?
Yes.
It would be the same thing.
No, see, this is the reason why I believe that we should go by the foundation first, which is the first to tell you who we believe to be the creator. That's very, very important. That's why.
That's what I'm saying. I'm referring to the description of your creator.
Okay, so what do you know about the description of our creator?
So, again, this is only what it's helpful that you're here, because you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely, fine.
So,
first of all, what do you reject? What kind of God do you reject?
It's not that I reject necessarily. Okay, yeah, right. That's a whole other conversation. But I reject, first of all, the idea that I can claim I know the answers to questions which are seemingly unanswerable. So I don't claim to know, and it would seem disingenuous to me for you to claim to know that your religious tradition is true, when you are not expected to know.
But we're not talking about religion right now. We're just talking about whether there is the creator or not behind the universe. Because religion comes with revelation. So I
wouldn't claim to know one way or the other.
Okay, so let me define to you who we believe to be the creator, right? And let's see if that makes sense to you, right? Let's see.
I mean, I appreciate the conversation where, and I guess I fall into the trap of wanting to, touching on religion.
But hang on, I'm making a positive...
You're right in the sense that just dealing with the issue of a creator outside of any religion is probably the right way to do it.
That's what I'm doing. So I'm not postulating that Islam is true just because I can prove to you the existence of the creator.
Right.
But what I'm saying, in order for me to even talk about Islam to you, I first need to tell you who the creator is.
I don't reject the idea of a creator.
But you just don't know.
I don't know, and I'm not convinced one way or the other.
Okay, so let me inform you who we believe to be the creator, and then from then on then you can say whether you're not sure about it, right? Okay. So we say,
I just want to preface this.
Sure.
And I mentioned it earlier. Coming to a place like this, it's a platform for both the apologetics and the polemics.
Of course.
So I've been exposed to all sides of the claims you may be about to make.
Sure.
But however, I do not want to appear to represent the counter arguments. They're not my arguments necessarily. However, I'm aware of their existence, and they play a part in my thinking.
I appreciate you making that disclaimer. I appreciate that. That's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine.
If I challenge your claims,
more than welcome to challenge me.
I'm playing devil's advocate because I think the only way to establish the truth of the claim is to challenge it.
No, but okay, fair enough. But then I want you to be honest.
Of course.
Listen, I've got a long way to go. So
okay. Wa alaikum salam. Take care, man. Take care.
The appropriate park.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
Take care.
Take care. Yeah. Take care. So okay. So since I don't know how long you've been coming to Speakers Corner. How long have you come here?
Maybe for a year before the lockdown.
Okay. And have you spoken to Muslims before? Like,
yeah.
Okay. And have they explained to you who we believe to be Allah?
To one extent or another, yeah.
So what have you heard so far? Because the thing is, I want to see if you know who Allah is first of all. Because probably it's a wasting time if I'm explaining to you who Allah is, right? So what have you heard from the Muslims that they...
Bearing in mind that the conversation is being recorded, I don't think it's going to be wasted if you give some of the basic precepts.
Okay, fine. So so first of all...
There'll be a lot of people who can gather gain something from it.
Sure. So we say that we have something called the definition of Allah. That Allah defines for himself who he is, right? And it's in the Quran, right? So we believe that the revelation comes from Allah, and he explained to himself who he is. And Islam came here to propagate the message of Tawheed, the oneness of God. That is the foundation of the faith. That the first call of the prophets and messengers is to preach people to worship none but the Creator and not to associate partners with him. Now, Almighty God, who we believe to be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is a short surah called Surah Al-Ikhlas, which is 112th chapter, right? And every Muslim from childhood to adulthood memorized. And it goes like this: A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Say he is Allah, the one and absolute, indivisible. Meaning that he's not into parts, he's not into divine entities, right? He's one and absolute. Allahu samad. Allah, the independent, the self-sufficient. Meaning that all of his creation depends upon him, but he does not depend upon his creation for his existence. He does not require to eat. He does not require to drink. Rather, we require to eat and drink from the one who provided us. That's what we say. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He begets not, nor is he begotten. Meaning that Allah does not have a lineage. Because if he has a lineage, then he's not God. Because that means he has a beginning and an end. And if Allah has parents, that means his parents is superior to him. How can his parents be superior to God? How can Allah father children, right? So Allah does not have a lineage. And then وَلَمْ يَكُلُّهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ, there is nothing comparable unto him. So let me just summarize from that particular surah, and I'll condense it. Allah is basically the one and only independent, self-sufficient entity that always existed in eternity, and that particular entity cannot be compared to anything else in existence. Now, based upon that definition of Allah, do you have any issues or you're not convinced?
Convinced of?
Convinced of this deity that we believe to be the creator.
So again, I'm really referring to some of the arguments I've heard against some of these claims.
Okay, sure.
So, for example, where it comes to the attributes and his dependency on his creation.
No, he's not dependent upon his creation.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry. I mean the challenging argument suggested that there is an element of dependency where it comes to some of those attributes, because some of those attributes are transactional in nature. And okay. I think this happened only like
no problem.
Ago,
no
right?
problem. I can address that. No problem.
But I don't know if within that, I don't remember within that video that I watched whether you were given a fair opportunity to address.
Oh, you watched me. Okay.
I think you have.
I probably have
with Bob, right?
Yeah, with Bob the Builder. Yeah.
I think it was on that topic.
Yeah, it was. It was.
So and again, I'm not saying I agree with him.
No problem.
But I'm saying it's food for thought for the agnostic.
Absolutely.
Or for the
Muslims as well.
For the neutral.
Yeah.
Of course, it is an opportunity to affirm their beliefs. So, the idea that certain attributes are transactional in nature and therefore require a recipient for them to be logically viable is something that provoked thought in me. So I'll be interested to hear your views on that.
No problem. So let's first define
and I'm keeping it locked into what you've already given as an
no problem, Cyrus. You should be very honest with me, and I want you to challenge me.
Sure.
And I can challenge you, but in a very respectful manner, because I can see in previous discussions people get a bit heated up and it doesn't go away. But we're having a good, respected discussion, right?
Long may it continue.
Long may it continue. Exactly. So you spoke about the attributes, that there's some sort of transactional, and therefore it postulates that the creator is dependent upon the object for his attribute. Now, what we say is we first need to define what is attribute by definition. What do we mean by attribute? So what do you understand by the word attribute? Because we cannot use terms and phrases unless we know what we're saying.
So how I would understand attribute, and you may pull out the Oxford definition, but
yeah.
I would infer from that a trait which is either intrinsic or adopted.
No. Attribute by definition mean inherent characteristics.
But can something become inherent?
Inherent means it's always in you. This is what we say. So you cannot attribute the object unless the object exists first. There has to be the existence first, then you put the attributes. But it comes with it. So for example, I'm
going to challenge you on that.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. When we say that Allah's attributes are not makhluk, they're not created, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already had these attributes in him. Mm-hmm. Now, since Almighty God, since he always existed, therefore all of his attributes existed. Okay? For example, you mentioned about the transaction, right? How can you call him the creator if he hasn't created yet? Right?
Or I think one of the examples that was used was merciful. How can you be
Correct.
merciful unless
Correct.
you have an object towards which to transmit your mercy?
No problem. So the Islamic scholars they explain this very well. So we have something called dhatiyya and fa'iliyya. Dhatiyya meaning his essence, and fa'iliyya meaning the action. So some of his attributes does not necessarily mean it needs to be manifested. And some of his attributes, essential. And some of his attributes, he can manifest it. So for example, his attribute of being the creator, just because he doesn't create, that doesn't necessarily mean that he was never the creator. Because he has the capacity and the ability to create. He doesn't need to create to show that he's the creator.
So let me ask you a question then.
Yeah?
I feel like potentially that raises a problem where you say it's essential. If he had not... What was the term you used where he defined his own attributes? Is that what you said?
No, so what, the dhatiyya, his essence, and then his fa'iliyya, which is his action.
Earlier on you said he defined his own attributes.
Oh, yeah, so he defines about himself.
Right.
Yeah,
as
with
in,
the attribute.
As in he reveals about himself?
He reveals about himself.
But those attributes, are they self-defined, or are they're just there as timeless as he is?
No, it's with him. All the time. Always. That makes sense. The fact is you have the capacity to love. That's your essence. But just because you haven't shown your love, that doesn't mean that you don't have love in the first place. You do have it. But you just didn't choose to manifest it.
But can I consider myself loving until I've loved?
But the attribute is your
potential. I may have the potential, the capacity, but can I consider myself a lover until I love?
Okay, but can you love unless you have the capacity to love in the first place? And this is why attribute by definition.
Learn to love?
No, you can't learn how to love.
Like for example, it's an interesting...
Okay, but this is different, because what we say, Allah is not like us. His existence is not like our existence. Do you understand? So
even if I find the perfect analogy,
yeah. But why does
it will always come back to?
Yeah.
But it's not like us.
But why does Allah need to manifest every attribute of His to His creation? Why can't it be just within His essence?
I understand the question you're asking. Before I forget.
Yeah, sure.
So, for example, where he's described as the most merciful.
Correct.
Could he have been any other way? As in, could he have decided himself to have been something else?
No, he has 99 names and attributes.
But where you said he defined them.
No. I'm saying what he attributes about himself. That he is all merciful, that he is as-samad, that he is independent, he's self-sufficient, that he is one and absolute, is ahad, right? But all of his attributes, they're not makhluk, they're not created. It's always with him. And that is what attribute means by definition, is inherent characteristics.
This is less of a challenge, it's just more of an academic question.
Sure.
He is described as the most merciful.
Correct.
Could he have equally been the least merciful?
No.
Why not?
Because that defies his nature.
But if he was the least merciful and having never been the most merciful, would it change anything for him?
But that's hypothetical now.
No, I know. It's just an additional, just a thought that popped into my mind. It's not to do with the challenge to any of you.
No, because my creator defined the way that he defined. Now, by altering his attributes and his characteristics, according to my opinion, you're altering the reality. So with all due respect,
99 attributes, but there are
names and attributes, commonly named attributes that we know. There's more.
I understand.
We'll know more.
So there are 99 names and attributes.
Correct. That we know.
That you know of.
Yes. Yes.
What I'm saying is, had they been different, and I know it's just hypothetical, but why not?
Okay.
Had they been different, would it make? Oh, okay. Before I get to that,
sure.
Does he have any attributes that he has not yet manifest?
No. Why does he need to manifest his attribute?
No, I'm saying, does he have any that he has? You're saying he doesn't need to manifest them to have them innately in
him. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm saying, does he have any examples of attributes that he's named but has not exercised yet? Because the entirety of history has not played out.
Okay.
So what I mean is, the time for him to demonstrate, let's say, one of his attributes.
I don't know, because when it comes, so we have a scholar called Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. May Allah have mercy on him. He explained the names and attributes of Allah in the best way. He says when it comes to the ma'na, when it comes to the description of Allah, we understand the meaning of mercy, we understand the meaning of love, we understand the meaning of him being the creator. But in terms of the haqiqah, in terms of the reality of his attribute, that only belongs to him. So how the kayfiyah, how he is infinitely merciful, how he creates infinitely, we don't know. But we affirm his names and attributes. So whatever Allah himself negates about himself, we confirm that. Whatever the Prophet, peace be upon him, negated about Allah, we negate that. Whatever Allah affirmed about himself, we affirm. And whatever the Prophet, peace be upon him, affirmed, we also affirm. And this is the aqidah, this is the creed of the Salaf.
So like over time, I've heard people cite, for example, one of the attributes, and then give an example as to how it was manifest. So, for example, whatever it might be, somebody went through trials and tribulations but came out unharmed. This is one of the signs of the manifestation of the mercy of Allah.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is there are numerous attributes to which we can draw examples.
The whole point of Allah revealing his names and attributes is to recognize. That's one of the reasons that we recognize his name and attributes. The very fact that he created the heavens and the earth, it demonstrates that he is the creator. But my next question to you is this: does he need to create to demonstrate he's the creator? Absolutely not, because he already had the capacity and he had the attribute, his inherent characteristics to create. For example,
I think that's an arguable,
so for example,
point, but I understand that that's,
but why does he? So in his hikmah, look. First of all, we as Muslims, we should never ever go beyond the knowledge of Allah about himself, his reality. We only affirm what Allah himself mentioned about himself and what the Prophet, peace be upon him, affirmed. For example, we say Allah, we don't speculate. But the most crux of the issue is there must be the creator, and that's all you need to recognize. That's all you need to recognize. Why should we know the reality of how he is? That belongs to him. We have been given little knowledge, and we're trying to go above to know who the creator is, about his reality. No, his ontological reality just belongs to him. But he revealed about his attributes, that he is as-samad, that he is self-sufficient. He doesn't require to he doesn't require to eat and drink like us, right? He's independent, meaning that he always existed. We, as humans, we never existed. This whole creation here is a proof that, it didn't always exist.
Like, so going back to my sort of worldview,
sure.
Like, I'm not convinced necessarily, even if I was to accept, for example, the idea, which I don't, but the idea that a being brought reality into existence, I wouldn't have conviction in saying it did it intentionally necessarily, or even that it continued to exist once that was established.
But it really doesn't matter anymore, because the reason why I say this to you, because if that makes sense to you, the definition of Allah, what we say is called the fitrah. The fitrah meaning the natural inclination, that it's aligned with your natural inclination. That hang on, if that's the way how Allah himself described, it makes sense. It makes sense that he's not a man, he's not Jesus, he's not Muhammed.
Then wouldn't you say that my natural inclination will also inform me as to whether the claims about the creator are true?
Ah, that's it.
But then you're going to say those can be...
no, that's the reason why we need revelation. We need guidance. Because we believe...
Would my natural inclination not lead me to... If it's true, would it not need... And if my natural inclination is implemented in me by God, would it then not make sense that I would naturally believe the claims?
This is the reason why we say to you that every human being is born in din al-fitr. Din al-Fitr meaning the innate religion, that they accept that there is a high supreme entity without any influence of external and internal factors from the society. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, he said.
How do we
so the Prophet,
verify that?
okay, so the Prophet, peace be upon him, he said that every child is born in Din al-Fitr, that every child is born to recognize that there is a supreme deity, right? There is a supreme deity, but the society. But then he started to.
How do we?
By just saying there must have been above me that is responsible for taking control of everything. That is
do we know that all sorry, was it all people are born that way?
All people are born to recognize that they submit to the will of someone who's higher than us, but they just don't recognize who he is. But they just recognize that there is.
That that's true?
And that's why we need revelation.
No, how do we verify that all human beings are born with that innate understanding?
Because if you ask any child who created this, they point up.
I mean,
so, but they don't know.
I've ever asked any child.
Yeah. Every child would know that. Every child would know.
Just go, I don't know.
No, but okay. But every child would tell you that anything that comes to existence, there must be a creator. There must be. That is the natural inclination. But what happens is, as you grow up, you have been influenced by the society.
That goes back to the very beginning of our conversation, where you were presupposing that everything has come in, even the base constituents of what makes our reality came into existence.
Exactly.
That's presupposition.
Right. But I'm not talking about religion. I'm not talking about God. I'm just talking about the fact that children have this innate nature to accept that something must be above me that is responsible for everything.
But isn't that because a child is born dependent on its parents, and therefore it grows up understanding?
You just confirmed what the Prophet, peace be upon him, said. This is exactly what he's saying.
I never claimed that he didn't say anything.
No, but this
didn't make sense.
No, but what you're saying is what the Prophet, peace be upon him, confirmed.
Right.
That he's saying that every child is born in an innate religion of accepting that.
But why do you say religion?
Okay, way of life.
State. Right.
Yeah, Din al-Fitr, like innate way of life. Right.
All human children, as in all human infants, are born that way.
Yes.
But not all entities on earth. There are some entities on earth.
No, we believe every entity here is a Muslim, the creation. Why? Because Muslim by definition means that submits to the will of the Creator. Sorry. The very fact that this tree here submits to the will of the Creator, it's following its nature. There's a program.
Sorry, but the point that I was making was all human beings are born dependent on their parents, or on a parent, or on another individual to raise them. What I'm saying is, not all living things on earth are born that way.
Okay, but
so you're taking it another step and saying
no. But the hadith says every child. It's not say every living thing.
No,
it says every
saying, not every living thing, but every human child.
Every human child. Now, what happened is, because they depend upon the parents, they start then adopting the religion of their parents. They start worshipping fire. They start becoming Jew, Christian.
It's no surprise to me that, first of all, I wouldn't agree with your claim that every child, if you ask them where did things come from, they point up. I don't agree with that. I wouldn't have answered that question that way.
Justin Barrett, he's a professor at Cambridge University.
Right.
He conducted a study, and he brought children without any external factors, without any external influence, and they all accept that there must be a supreme deity.
Well, hold on.
They all
those
accept
children were raised in families that had their own narrative.
No. They weren't raised by their family, independent.
What do you mean independent?
Meaning there's no external influence. They didn't
How
learn.
old were the children?
They were in the infant. I'm not sure. Around 5, 6 years old. I'm not sure.
And never had any external influence.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's why they conducted a study. Justin Barrett, you can research yourself. Justin Barrett.
I would like to make a note of that.
Yeah, sure.
If you think the only scenario in which you could create controlled samples of children who have had no external influence, would be if they were bred in captivity and were never given contact with other human beings.
But what I'm saying to you is that this is the natural state, without any external influence. But because of the society, because of the nurture, because of the environment, it then altered their understanding about God. They start adopting the religion of their parents. They start becoming a Jew, they start becoming Christian. That's the reason why when we say that a person accepts Islam, we don't call them a convert, we call them a reaver, because they're going back to their natural inclination. And this is what Islam means by definition. It means you submit to the will of the one true God that I just spoke to you. But as far as I know, when I gave you the definition of Allah, I don't think you have any issue. what you're doing at this moment in time, I just think what you're doing is you're fighting against your natural instinct.
No, it's quite the opposite. You're trying to fight against my natural instinct. My natural instinct is that I'm not convinced. You're not convinced if whoever this creator is communicated me. I'm not even convinced that it still exists. I'm not convinced that if it existed, it still exists. If it existed, it knew it was creating us.
Okay, do you exist?
Yes.
Do you exist?
Yes.
How do you know that?
I think.
But are you sure that you exist? Okay, so now you're going by the Greek Socrates, I don't know, whoever quoted this, right? But you know for sure that you exist.
I'm saying, look, if we agree on a number of parameters as to what, hold on,
right.
If we agree as to what if we agree to a number of parameters as to what existence is, and I would assume that based on the conventional parameters, you're asking me the question based on conventional parameters, then I'll say yes, I exist.
No,
Do I believe I'm experiencing existence? Yes.
No, I'm not questioning about whether there's God or not. I'm just questioning to you existence.
No, I'm saying
that's the
basics.
On
the conventional parameters, I believe I exist.
Okay, brilliant. So you believe that you exist, correct? Now, if you believe that you exist, the only thing is natural to ask yourself, well, where did I come from? And why am I here?
I asked that question.
Right, so let me ask you this question. Did you create yourself?
In what sense? Did I create my persona?
No, just you, your existence.
No, my mum and dad did.
Okay, you believe your mum and dad created you?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you die, can they give your life back?
Not according to the current
Why
state
not?
of technology, no.
Why not? If you're saying that your parents gave you life, they're the life giver to you, when you die, why can't they bring your life back? Do you know what that shows you?
Why would that even be a question?
That's a question because it shows to you that it's not within the capability of your parents for you to be born. Because there's so many parents that goes through miscarriage. How can you?
So you're saying that my parents didn't give me life?
No. Yeah, your parents didn't give you life. What I'm saying to you is, it's a means of your existence. This is what I'm saying. So your parents didn't give you life in the first place. Because look, like I told you, if your parents gave you life in the first place...
Your parents didn't give you life?
No, my parents didn't give me life. The life who gave me is the Creator. The Creator gave me life. But the Creator created my parents as a means for my existence.
That the messenger didn't give you the message?
No, what I believe is... We can move on to that, no problem. What I'm saying to you is...
But it's like you're creating kind of an unusual argumentation.
Which is?
Like the process of reproduction is what gives life.
But how? Okay, so do you believe that your parents was able to control your outcome?
But what? I don't understand. What does the level of control have to do with it?
Because it shows to you that your parents did not have the control in the first place for your existence. Because how could
without them? Am I not dependent on their relationship?
Hang on, but your parents is dependent upon their parents. So
I'm not arguing against that.
Exactly.
But to say that my parents didn't give me life,
right,
kind of goes in the face of the basic. See, when you talk about natural inclination,
yes.
If you ask anyone here, did your parents give you life?
Okay.
I would imagine that the vast majority of people, even the Muslims here, would agree.
Okay, well, hang on.
So that's my natural inclination.
I'm saying your parents is used as an agent for your existence. But who looked after you in your womb, in your mother's womb? Who gave you food and drink? The very fact your mother could not even. No. Okay, my parents, my mom. I'll use my example.
No.
My mom. You know how it works. It goes through the bloodstream and then the fetus, right? But my mom couldn't feed me if there was no food in the first place. And my mom didn't create the food. My mom just cooked it. So where did the food come from? Where did the water come from? You wouldn't have the water if there was no rain. And where did the rain come from? And this is why we say to you, ultimately, the Creator.
There are a number of natural processes that
go
on Earth.
Right. Do you know what I like to use?
Create
good
sustaining factors
and do you know what
that allow us to give life.
Very good. Now, do you know what I call?
You disagree when someone disrespects their mum. You know, you hear the old adage when someone's like telling them off. You say, your mother gave you life. Why would you disrespect?
Oh no, we have huge respect. In fact, we say after worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and after loving the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our next love is our parents.
The reason I'm saying that is because it's generally accepted that our mothers give us life.
No.
No, your mothers cannot give you life.
That it's a boy or girl. When you are in womb,
can they?
Your mother, if she wants a baby girl,
Exactly, she can't.
And if she wants a male,
I don't think we're talking about gender.
No. That's what I'm saying to you. I'm saying to you that our parents did not have the control of your outcome. If, for example, they want you to be a girl,
I think
they can't do it.
Control over certain aspects of it.
How? How?
Just the fact that they.
No, they just delivered it. They just delivered it, and this is why you have to question yourself. Where did your life come from? Because the thing is, the thing is, you're talking about the reproduction process, the natural process. Do you know what I like to call natural? Right. Do you know what I like to call natural process? Programming. Everything's programmed.
But do you disagree that reproduction creates life?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying reproduction is part of the program. It's a means. It's a program that was instigated by God.
On a little bit of common ground. Do you agree or disagree that reproduction creates life?
No, reproduction doesn't create life. Reproduction process is a process. It's not creation. Because where did the reproduction process come from? This is where you have to question yourself. Reproduction process is just a natural process, which I like to call programming. Now let me ask you this question. How can things be programmed without a programmer, without any intelligence?
That's your word.
No, you told me.
Yeah, but you're introducing that word to allow you to then segue onto this next question of yours.
Okay, hang on. But your parents didn't.
I didn't call it a program.
Okay, but I don't like to be explicit here. But there may be children, right? But you know, genitals, right? Did our parents created their own genitals for you to exist? No. You have to question yourself. Where did all this come from? You have to question this. It's not a byproduct of randomness. There must be some sort of programming. There must be a natural process that somebody put into it. For example, you know, I'm not sure if you do encoding, right? But the computer cannot be programmed unless somebody encoded the information. And we're talking about one cell that is more complex in terms of its information than the whole stack of libraries. And you're telling me that there's no intelligence?
I don't claim to have an answer for like the problem of abiogenesis.
Abiogenesis is a speculation, even in science.
I don't claim to have a view on that necessarily. Again, that's above my pay grade. However,
me too.
Again, this is not me saying your claims are false or whatever. It's not. I'm not here to say God doesn't exist. I'm not an atheist in the conventional sense. I'm an atheist only in the sense that I have a lack of belief, which some philosophers would argue.
I have a lack of belief too. Can I tell you? I have a lack of belief as well, to a certain extent.
You have belief where I don't, and maybe I have belief where you don't.
Let me explain to you. I also have a lack of belief. I'm also an atheist to a certain extent. You know why?
I think we're all agnostics to a certain extent.
It's allowed for you to have healthy skepticism, no problem. But unhealthy skepticism, that's where the problem is. Right?
Sure.
Okay? So let me tell you one thing. I am also an atheist to a certain extent. You know why? I also reject the concept of Trinity. I don't accept that Jesus came as a man and as a God. I reject the Hindu gods, plethora of gods. I also reject the Greek gods fighting amongst each other. Right? I reject all these gods. And this is the reason why, this is the reason why in our pillar, the first pillar, which is Shahada, which is to declare your faith, we first make the negation. La ilaha. There's none worthy to be worshipped. We first make the negation. So me and you, we're together. I also reject the Trinity God. I also reject the Hindu gods. I also reject the Greek gods. Because by definition, they cannot be God. How can, for example, Jesus, how can he be God if he eats and drinks like us?
Yeah, I'm familiar with all those.
It doesn't make sense.
Arguments, and again, I don't have any sympathy.
Exactly.
For the Christians.
So me and you, we're already in the same boat. Now, where I'm telling you is where I make the positive affirmation, except Allah. And I've given you the definition of Allah, that the definition of Allah is unlike what you heard of. What you're rejecting, you're not rejecting the existence of Allah, you're rejecting the existence of false gods. I'm with you. Because when I give you the definition of Allah, you had no problem. Do you know why? It aligns with your natural inclination. It makes sense.
No, I didn't agree with it per se. However, I'm saying is I can be wrong.
No, what you're doing, sorry. What you're doing, you're playing devil's advocate, which you said, right? You're questioning about Allah's attributes.
When I offer challenges, they're not necessarily challenges that I've come up with myself. They're ones that I've heard. But I'm saying, deep down, for me as an individual, I'm not convinced. It's not that I'm choosing to be ignorant. I come to places like this.
Of course, I'm not saying you're ignorant.
No, I'm not putting words in your mouth. But I try to expose myself to as much information as I can in the pursuit of the truth.
But as much as you expose to other people's claims and arguments,
expose yourself to misinformation.
But you should also reflect about your own existence. You should reflect about yourself. This is what Allah tells in the Quran. Do they not contemplate about themselves? Allah says in the Quran, أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ. That have they not seen the way how the camels have been created? Look at the camel. Why do they have long eyelashes? Why don't we have long eyelashes? Do you know why? They have long eyelashes because they live in the desert to trap the sand dust. Because if they didn't have the long eyelashes, right? It's going to go into their eye. They're going to be blinded. That means there must have been a design. There must have been some intelligence. If you see this building right here.
So you're operating under. Are you saying that you're operating under the
observation
belief that the camel was designed and that was it?
The camel was designed. You could tell it's designed with a fit for purpose.
On one occasion, a finished camel, the first camel was created, and there were no like.
Ultimately, Allah created everything that existed. Everything, including the camels, including us.
Through process of evolution?
No, I don't believe you. Well, okay.
You don't believe in evolution for humans, right?
Yeah, I don't believe the evolution of humans, but I've got no problem accepting the animal evolution. I've got no problem with that. But ultimately, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
That seems like a more modern take.
No, not necessarily.
More modern understanding.
No, I'm agnostic. I'm agnostic because I don't really care. I don't really care if animals evolve or not because it doesn't really take me outside the fold of Islam. Sure. What takes me outside the fold of Islam, if I start believing that we didn't come from Adam and Eve, we come from monkeys or we come from fish. That's where I'm taken out of the fold of Islam, right? So I don't affirm Darwinian evolution.
That's because of the claims that the Quran makes
about
creation.
Exactly. But first of all, I'm not even talking about religion. I'm just talking about the existence of the Creator. So, that it makes sense.
Obviously, for me to be sincere, I would have to be open to changing my mind if compelling evidence.
Exactly.
Itself, right?
Exactly.
So how do you resolve that with, for example, the like the fossil records?
Okay.
Like the evidence that is claimed to represent the evolution of the human species. For example. How do you deal with that?
Okay. First of all, these fossil records and all of this, these are all based on assumption. Mm-hmm. These are all based on assumptions and evidence, right? Science, you see.
Hope it's based on evidence.
Yeah. So if you go by the scientific method, you're just extracting data. That's all you're doing.
If they dig out a fossil of a skull which is remarkably similar to human but not quite human, and then another one that's very similar to that but slightly further removed from human, but clearly related to the.
This is why it's called a theory. But this is why it's called a theory. It's not a fact. It's a theory.
You can give us the definition of the scientific method, so we can go more. Now, modern physics says everything is in a very symmetrical shape. This has been now, modern physics says, if you look, everything is in a symmetrical shape.
Yeah.
That couldn't be by itself. Because
correct.
How come everything is in so symmetrical?
Exactly.
And they just give the
like
number.
What, for example?
Like everything you say is if you go in deep inside the ocean, look at yourself, look at everything is in a symmetrical shape.
Golden ratio.
1 hour,
everything proportional.
1 divided by 237. The mathematician even find out the numbers of that. If you Google it, you will find 1 divided by 237. That is the symmetrical number they gave it to it. Yeah. And,
but sorry. We're just having a respectful discussion, man. You can do afterwards. You can do afterwards, man.
Do you want to join the discussion?
Absolutely. Yeah. What's the discussion about?
Yeah, but don't block the camera.
We'll just listen, and then if you.
Sorry, brother, man. Sorry, carry on if you want, man.
About football.
About football. We'll be here all day.
No, but there's a conversation. If you listen to it, and then you pick up on the topic, if you feel like you have something to contribute, you're welcome to.
It's just based on experimentation and observation.
And observation.
Yeah. So they didn't observe. Darwinian evolution.
So the fossil record. You're saying what about it?
But you weren't there. This is the whole point. This is why it's called theory. For example, the Big Bang Theory, you weren't there. We're just postulating evidences that we saw the red shift, that the galaxies are receding each other. And therefore, we make an assumption that if the galaxies recede in each other,
anybody who makes any claim about religion or about what happened during the course of their religious, the narrative within their religious tradition, in all likelihood wasn't there.
No, not necessarily, because science is induction, but my belief is based on deduction. That's the difference. Exactly. Yeah. So this is science.
I'm not talking about the precepts of believing in a creator. I'm talking now. I'm just kind of trying to move the conversation along to a specific religion. So
okay, but
the events that make up the traditional narrative of any given religion now in the modern age, like all of these religions are somewhat ancient in origin.
Okay.
In terms of the timing of the revelations.
No problem. No problem.
So where you make the claim that you weren't there, i.e. the Big Bang, the fossil record or whatever, well, none of us were there in terms of the major events in the origin stories of these religions either.
Yeah. Okay.
So how then do you apply that standard?
There's a difference. My claim is based on certainty. Science is not certain, because science is transitory. It changes over time. Whatever the evidence points towards, you go by that.
So
but 100 years time, they may say to you the universe is internal.
So when we talk, so that's part of the reason why I picked. Oh, what happened?
Huh?
Where are you going?
No, we want to look around.
Right.
Good night. Take care.
So you see, where I talk about the fossil record,
right,
and you said it's just observation and theory. But I don't understand. Yet it's observation because you're looking at the thing, and you're determining that they're related because they're extremely similar.
Okay.
Like, why would you discount that?
Do you know why I discount that?
As it, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Over and above what you're told to believe.
Okay.
I'm saying just what is your rationale for
good question.
it?
Good question. My criteria is not science in the first place, because science doesn't give you ultimate truth. Science can only give you based on evidence and based on assumptions. It can never give you a certain fact. It can never give you, because whatever the evidence they give you in 100 years' time, it may backfire. They may have other fossil evidences 100 years' time that may contradict the present claim. For example, I'll give you one example. I don't believe in the Big Bang. I don't believe specifically about the Big Bang. This is what science says. I don't really care what science has to say.
I don't think it gives any hard conclusions, to be honest.
I love science. I love science, by the way, but I put science in proper perspective, right? Because in philosophy of science, there's something called scientific realism and scientific instrumentalism. So scientific realism meaning that science is your objective reality. Science instrumentalism meaning that you're using the scientific theories as a useful tool for making predictions, but you're agnostic about it, whether it's true or not. I adopt the scientific instrumentalism, not scientific realism, because my criteria of reality is Islam, not science.
So you don't agree that there are some scientific principles that are proven to such an extent that they can be accepted as
Can any scientist say that to you?
So, for example, like with the principles of like the weak force, the strong force, electromagnetism, and so on.
Okay.
These things, like they've been shut the book. That's it. These are facts.
Yeah,
As in, that's how they're considered. I'm not claiming to understand.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm saying these are considered to be like conclusive. They're considered
you're spot on. Science can never give you a conclusion. That's the difference. I want answers that gives me certainty. Science doesn't give me it doesn't give me certainty. It just gives you what evidence points towards. But it doesn't give you facts.
To the extent where you could make life or death decisions based on the information that the study of these three principles that I've just mentioned give you. You could put your life on it, that the equations will be true, that
I'm not dismissing science, by the way. I'm just putting science in the proper perspective.
With less certainty than your religious beliefs?
No, exactly. The reason why I say this to you, because science is just a study of the natural phenomena, and we believe that even in the Quran.
That's the beauty. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem, sorry.
But see, like with some of the principles, like the ones I've just mentioned.
Yes.
Where you say you have less certainty about those than your religious beliefs, despite the fact you can measure them, you can experiment and prove that they're true even now. You still reject them, or you still regard them as a lower level of
evidence. Correct.
And you have less confidence in them than your
than Islam.
Your beliefs,
absolutely,
which by very definition are absent in what makes them knowledge.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying.
There is a reason, can I say?
Yeah, sure.
Because what happened, I can take and I understand you said there is a solid something and there is a religious belief. How come you reconcile these two
things? A religious belief which at its very core
is very good
occult.
question,
It's hidden, parts of it are intentionally hidden from you.
But thing is that if I take your one, like a science one, because that's the one, because you said there's a solid ground on a science, there's a religious belief, so we have to take the but thing is that let's take the science one, because now science has been divided into two. There used to be a conventional physics all the time. time we believe. And now quantum physics come up, which completely negate that physics.
1 second.
So now,
brother, it's a nice discussion with him. Is it possible if I could pray Maghrib here?
Yeah, of course.
With the prayer mat, yeah?
Yes,
just in 10 minutes, yeah?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
energy never comes with the mass, because where is that? Then the solar energy comes over. How the photon emits energy? There is no any mass over there.
I understand what you're saying about like classical physics,
and
Newtonian physics. Although it falls apart on the subatomic level, it describes very well things on the large scale.
Do you believe?
But it negates the convention.
Exactly.
So what he says science is evolving.
It's evolving. New things coming up.
Otherwise, we have to still stick with the conventional physics.
I
but the quantum
saying.
Physics come, and quantum physics says that conventional physics is different.
I accept what you're saying, and I think, and maybe we'll get to that a bit later, but I actually think that within that explanation that you just given is a certain amount of wisdom with which we should approach even the spiritual realm. But
I agree with you. I agree with you. That's true. That's true. You're right.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is why we're not anti-scientists. We're not anti-science. We're just saying we're putting the science in the proper perspective, which is like the brother here said very eloquently, right? It evolves. It evolves, right? Because there's certain evidence that you have right now, in 100 years' time, it may smack against your face. Like for example, do you believe in the Big Bang? Do you believe in the Big Bang theory?
Many questions yet.
Do I believe in the Big Bang?
Yeah. Do you believe it happened, the Big Bang?
I understand that scientists have made observations that lead them to model the universe in such a way that what we see as reality started from a singularity or what they describe as a very small point. It's not. I wouldn't say necessarily that I believe it. I would say that I accept that it's a popular.
That's it.
theory.
So I agree with you. That's what I believe.
But
that's it.
But I think there are other scientific principles that are much stronger than the Big Bang.
And I have no problem at all. Which is why I say to you that nobody can confidently say to you that the Big Bang happened. Because there's so many other models. Do you understand?
Science can give you confidence in other claims.
It can never give you confidence, because the thing, science is there to, like you say, it's just to experiment. It's just to explore. But it doesn't give you
an experiment time after time after time, and it gives you the same result to the extent where you can now no need to experiment. You can just predict the outcome.
So why is it still a theory? Do you know why it's still a theory?
There's a difference between a scientific theory and me coming up with a theory. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I can understand where you're coming from.
A scientific theory has to be supported by a huge amount of research and evidence.
Absolutely, because from hypothesis to theory, yes.
About the Earth being flat is a completely different thing. I don't believe that, by the way. So we have to differentiate between what is theory in the realm of science and what is theory just in terms of everyday thinking.
Okay, so
because for something to qualify as a scientific theory, it needs to be supported by a huge amount of evidence.
It needs to be supported by a huge amount of evidence, correct? Which is where it's upgraded from hypothesis, right? So hypothesis means that anyone can give you the explanation, but there's no evidence.
Sure.
But then it's upgraded to a theory, right? But then theory doesn't necessarily mean it's a fact.
No, I agree. That's why I was careful to say that there are certain scientific principles that are resolved to such a level of certainty that we can consider them.
Very good. So now you're going based on probability. This is what you're doing. So what's most likely, it happens. What's most likely not. That's what evolution. This is what science does.
I think that's a slightly different.
No, but science is based on probability. You put a probability machine. It's all based on probability. What's the likelihood? Because, like you said, if you experiment over and over again, it's most likely that it will be the same outcome. But it can never give you certainty. This is what I'm saying to you. Whereas my belief, my criteria, is based on reason and rationality. That's more powerful, because you come to a certain conclusion rather than using the inductive argument that can never give you conclusion.
I'm quite comfortable with many of the arguments supporting the existence of a creator. Again, I won't claim to believe necessarily, but I'm comfortable with them. Like, if it turns out to be true, it's not a problem for me. I'm not against it. And maybe this is material.
Can I be honest with you, Cyrus? I don't want you to be a devil's advocate. I want you to be sincerely honest with me. Like, deep inside, what is it that you're not convinced of? Because as far as I know, I don't think you have a problem with the existence of Allah.
I think people have this
I think you have an issue with religion, not the existence of a deity.
No, I made that very clear. I don't have a problem with it.
Brilliant.
I have huge problems with religion.
Brilliant. Okay, so let's now talk about religion. Let's talk about religion now, right? Okay, we say Islam.
It's a bit more.
No. I think we're progressing. Right? So Islam, by definition, means. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, before we go on, I have lots of reasons for why I don't believe in God.
But what's the contrary? Because what you're doing right now, you're just sitting on the fence.
Yeah, you just said there's something different now.
Okay, so your religious tradition tells you that belief is a choice.
Belief is a choice. Yes, it is.
I don't agree with that. So I believe that I can make choices that influence my beliefs, but I feel strongly that belief occurs.
No, I believe your belief, you've been indoctrinated to make that choice. And I believe in that too. I've been indoctrinated. Everyone has been indoctrinated to sex. This is where I really despise people who have hate against, organized religions like the 6 world major religions, okay, Islam, Judaism, as though they don't have a religion. Well, unfortunately, you do have a religion. Your religion could be fashion. Your religion could be money. Your religion could be science. Because religion, by definition, means you have a specific ideology that you go by in your life. So their purpose of life may be just making money. That's your religion. So what I don't like is people saying to me, what I don't like is when people come to theists like myself and say, oh, you've been brainwashed, you've been indoctrinated. Well, actually, you have been indoctrinated as well by society. Society gives you the barrier of what is beauty and what is not. That's the reason why a lot of girls, a lot of women, they feel pressured because the society is defining what beauty is supposed to look like. And then you see many subcontinents. I come from Bangladesh, right? And India, he comes from Pakistan. There are many dark-skinned individuals trying to do bleaching. Is that not a religion? That's a religion. You've been indoctrinated.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not saying that the environment in which we live, the information to which we expose ourselves doesn't influence our beliefs.
Yes. But then you made the ultimate choice at the end.
Okay, so things you call a religion, I mean, I can understand why you're saying that.
Yeah.
But I think deep down, you can take 2 people and expose them to exactly the same things, but it doesn't guarantee that they'll both have the same beliefs at the end of it.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
So there is an innate component as well.